When we're talking about the artists, I'm beyond impressed with the work and body of work of Kendrick Lamar.
Accept it or not, I ain't going back.
Had I had some of these opportunities, I'd have been able to help my mother more. She wouldn't have went the road she went. I could have been a better son.
Imagine you're 9 years old. Your mom is working 2 jobs just to keep things afloat. She gets home at midnight, still smelling like the restaurant where she's been working on her feet all day. You know the power might get cut off next week, and you can hear her crying in the bathroom, thinking you're asleep down now. Fast forward 15 years. You're handing her the keys to a house she never dreamed she'd actually own, not to visit or to clean, but to live in. That is the exact moment every rapper on this list worked for. Honestly, some of these stories are going to hit you deep, whether you want to admit it or not. We're breaking down the journeys of Kendrick Lamar, NBA Youngboy, Tupac Shakur, Pooh Shiesty, Lil Yachty, and Fetty Wap. These are 6 different rappers with 6 unique come-up stories, all featuring mothers who sacrificed everything and eventually saw it all pay off. You really need to hear this. Let's get into it. We have to start with Tupac Shakur. It's only right to begin here because before anyone else on this list even picked up a microphone, Pac turned the act of buying his mother a home into something legendary. To really understand what this moment meant, you have to go back to the very beginning. No cap, Tupac's childhood was easily one of the toughest on this entire list. His mother, Afeni Shakur, was a Black Panther activist who actually spent time in prison while she was pregnant with him. She even represented herself in court while carrying him, and she won. Tupac was born in East Harlem, New York, on June 16, 1971, and from day one, life didn't give them any breaks. Afeni struggled with a crack addiction throughout his childhood, leaving them drifting in and out of homeless shelters. At one point, they were literally on the streets, moving from place to place. Tupac watched his mother battle her demons in real time, but instead of running away from the struggle, he absorbed it. He channeled every ounce of that pain directly into his music. But here's where things get really intense.
When people, for instance, listen to Tupac's music, they always feel that he said something that, God, I wish I had said it.
The second Tupac's career started taking off, the very first chance he had, he made sure his mother was taken care of. Before the massive mansions, the entourages, or any of the fame, it was about her. In 1993, as soon as that Interscope money started coming in from the success of Pacalypse Now and Strictly for My Niggaz, Pac moved Afeni out of their old life. He made sure she finally had stability. As his career reached new heights with Me Against the World and eventually All Eyes on Me, Afeni's entire life was completely transformed.
I would describe Tupac as an extraordinary human being who was actually quite ordinary.
By the time he signed with Death Row, he was making sure she was taken care of on a level she'd never even imagined. He didn't just buy her a house. He gave her a real life in Atlanta, Georgia, providing the security and stability she lacked while he was growing up watching her struggle. Then, on September 13, 1996, Pac was gone. But here's the part that really hits home. After his passing, Afeni inherited everything: his estate, his music, and his entire legacy. She founded Amaru Entertainment to manage his catalog and ensure his voice kept reaching the world. That house and the stability he built for her became the foundation she used to preserve one of the greatest legacies in hip-hop history. Pac didn't just buy his mother a home, he gave her a purpose to keep going. After he was gone, that's as real as it gets, and it sets the tone for everyone else on this list. Next up is Kendrick Lamar, the kid from Compton who rewrote the rules. We're moving from New York to the West Coast now, Compton, California. In the mid-90s, growing up in Section 8 housing, Kenny Duckworth the world would later know him as Kendrick. Lamar spent his childhood watching Compton be exactly what Compton is known for. Between the gang activity, the violence, and the poverty, Kendrick saw it all. His father, Kenny Duckworth Sr., had ties to the gangster Crips, while his mother, Paula Oliver, was doing everything in her power to hold the household together. Let's be real, Paula wasn't just his mom, she was his anchor. Kendrick has praised her in more interviews than I can count because she kept him away from the streets at a time when they were swallowing everyone else up. She believed in him back when the idea of a rapper from Compton making it big seemed like a coin flip at best. Now here is something people often overlook. When Kendrick dropped Good Kid, M.A.A.D. City in 2012, that album was essentially a tribute to his mother. Her voice is woven throughout the project in the interludes and voicemails. He didn't just dedicate songs to her, he immortalized her in one of the greatest rap albums ever created. But the real flex happened behind the scenes. Long before the Pulitzer Prize, Humble, or the Super Bowl, Kendrick quietly moved his entire family out of Compton. He bought his parents a home, and it wasn't some flashy look-at-me mansion moment. That's just not his style. He did it with the same quiet intentionality he brings to everything else. He relocated them to a neighborhood where his mother didn't have to worry and could finally just breathe. In his interviews, Kendrick has opened up about the survivor's guilt he felt making it out when so many others didn't. You can hear that struggle all over To Pimp a Butterfly and DAMN. But buying his mama that house was his way of turning that guilt into something meaningful. And here's the bigger picture for y'all to think about. When Kendrick won the Pulitzer Prize for Music in 2018, for Damn becoming the first non-jazz artist to ever achieve that, Paula Oliver, the woman who held it down for him in a Section 8 apartment in Compton, was right there watching her son make history, from government housing to a Pulitzer Prize, and his mother was in a home he provided the entire time. That's the kind of success that makes you stop and really think for a second. Now, we're switching gears to the most loyal son in the game, NBA. This next story hits different because it isn't just about the money. It's about a young man who was writing for his mother long before he even had the bag to do it right. Kentrell Deshaun Gowden was born on October 20th, 1999, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You know him as NBA Youngboy, and if you've followed his journey at all, you know his life has been anything but simple. To set the scene, Youngboy grew up in the poverty-stricken neighborhoods of Baton Rouge. His father went to prison when he was very young, and his grandmother raised him for a large part of his childhood. By the time he was in middle school, he had already spent time in a juvenile detention facility after literally breaking his neck in an accident, which left him wearing a halo brace. And while he was recovering from that injury, he was actually in juvie. But here's what often gets overlooked when people talk about Youngboy. His mother, Shahonda Gowden, has been one of the most visible figures in his entire journey, and it hasn't always been a simple story. Their relationship has had its share of complications, public moments, and serious ups and downs. Yet, through all of it, Youngboy has consistently shown up for her financially in a way that most people in their 20s, rapper or not, couldn't even dream of. Before he was even old enough to legally rent a car, he was generating millions in streaming revenue. We're talking hundreds of millions of streams year after year, consistently outperforming artists who get 10 times more mainstream press. A huge chunk of what he did with that money was focused on taking care of his people, especially his mom. He's been documented moving her out of Baton Rouge and getting her set up. This matters because Youngboy isn't the type to go on press runs just to brag about it. He's said in interviews that loyalty to family is non-negotiable. What's truly wild is that this is a man who has dealt with constant legal troubles, public beefs, and being on house arrest. In the middle of all that chaos, the one constant is that Shahonda is taken care of. That's just how he moves. Even in 2021, while he was on house arrest in Utah, Youngboy was dropping music at a pace most free artists can't even keep up with. The bag never stopped, and the people he loves never got left behind. The streets know Youngboy might be controversial and polarizing, but his loyalty to his family isn't up for debate. Period. Next up, Pooh Shiesty. From Memphis to the mansion before the storm hit. Alright, y'all, buckle up for this one because this story comes with some of the most complicated feelings on this entire list. Luntrell Donnell Williams Jr., known to the world as Pooh Shiesty, was born on November 8, 2000, in Memphis, Tennessee. He is one of the most authentic artists to come out of that city in years, and when he blew up, he did it fast. To break it down for you, Memphis is not a city that plays around. It has one of the highest crime rates in the country, and a music culture that is brutally raw. Pooh Shiesty is a direct product of that environment. By the time he was 20, he had a major label deal with Yo Gotti's collective music group, CMGA, and was going viral with tracks that hit differently because they came from a real place. Here's the part people need to understand. His mother raised him in circumstances that were, by any measure, extremely difficult. We're talking about poverty, the streets, the whole 9 yards. The moment Pooh Shiesty saw the money starting to roll in, he moved his mother out. He talked about it publicly and shared it on social media, which was a huge deal for someone who usually keeps his personal life private. The house, the security, and finally getting his mom out of the environment that defined his entire childhood that was the only flex that actually mattered to him. As his streams hit the hundreds of millions, he was landing magazine covers and selling out shows, but his top priority remained his family. However, this is where the story takes a turn, and I'm not going to gloss over the hard parts. In July 2021, Pooh Shiesty was arrested in Memphis following a shooting investigation. By 2022, federal charges hit him hard, involving drug trafficking and firearm possession. This was a man who had just bought his mother her dream home and was on a massive upward trajectory when the legal system suddenly came crashing down. He eventually pleaded guilty to federal gun charges, and in March 2023, he was sentenced to nearly 8 years in federal prison. That's the part that really hurts, because he actually did it. He made it out. He took care of his mom, and he gave her a better life. But then the streets caught up with him in a different way. His mother has that home, and that's a real victory that can't be taken away. But the son who gave it to her is currently serving federal time. That's not a flex, it's a reminder. You can love your family with everything you have and still get swallowed by the life you came from. The home is real, the sacrifice is real, and the cost is very real, too. Let's keep it moving for Pooh Shiesty. We're rooting for his release and peace for his family. Now, let's shift the energy for a second, because this next story reminds us that not every come-up looks the same, and not every rapper fits the mold. People try to force them into. Miles Parks McCollum, born August 23, 1997, in Mableton, Georgia, is known to the world as Lil Yachty. Before anyone says anything, yes, Yachty gets a lot of heat from certain corners of hip-hop. People have questioned his artistry, his lyrics, and everything in between. But let me tell you something. When it comes to taking care of his family, Yachty does not play games. Here's the real deal. Yachty didn't grow up in extreme poverty like some of the other artists on this list. His father, Shannon McCollum, is actually a photographer who worked with major hip-hop publications, so Yachty had some exposure to the industry early on. But that doesn't mean everything was just handed to him. When Yachty blew up in 2016, it happened almost overnight. He went from being a kid who took out student loans to attend Alabama State University, only to drop out to becoming one of the most recognizable faces in hip-hop. The one-night era, the Nautica campaign, the entire teenage rap scene belonged to him. In the middle of all that whirlwind success, he bought his mother Venita McCollum a house. What makes Yachty's story so compelling is just how fast it all happened. We're talking about a 20-year-old kid whose first instinct wasn't to buy cars or jewelry. His first thought was that his mom needed a home. He spoke about it with a casual humility that actually hits harder than if he had made a huge scene out of it. In interviews, he shared how his parents' support gave him the confidence to be authentically himself, even while the entire internet was debating whether or not he was a real rapper. But here is the part nobody really talks about. Yachty eventually pivoted. He completely reinvented himself with his 2023 psychedelic rock album. Let's start here. Earning critical acclaim from the very people who had spent years counting him out. The same critics who once laughed at his melodies were suddenly writing deep dives into his artistic evolution. But here's the thing, his mom was already settled in that house long before this redemption arc began. He didn't wait for the industry to respect him before he did right by his family. He took care of business while the internet was still trolling him. That's character, gang. That's as real as it gets. Fetty Wap, from Trap Queen to the dream home, the ultimate full circle moment. Alright, last but definitely not least, I saved this one for a reason. Out of everyone on this list, Fetty Wap's story might carry the most emotional weight once you see the full picture. Willie Jr., Maxwell II, born June 7, 1991, in Paterson, New Jersey, is known to the world as Fetty Wap. If you only know him for Trap Queen, you're missing the real story. Let's set the stage. Fetty lost the sight in his left eye as an infant due to congenital glaucoma. Initially, doctors were afraid he might lose his sight entirely. He grew up in Paterson, a city that has struggled with poverty and crime for decades, with a mother who held everything together through circumstances that were never easy. His mother, Thousana Maxwell, raised him through all of it. When Fetty talks about his childhood, he mentions how his mother instilled a belief in him that his disability would never define his potential. In a world that focused on what he couldn't do, she focused on what he could. Then came 2014. Trap Queen dropped and went absolutely nuclear. We aren't talking about a slow burn. This track went from SoundCloud buzz to total radio dominance in a matter of months. By 2015, Fetty Wap had multiple songs in the top 10 simultaneously and was a staple at every major award show. He was everywhere. And the moment that first real check hit, he moved his mother out of Paterson. This is the part that really hits. Because Paterson is his roots, he didn't distance himself from it or pretend it didn't exist. Instead, he embraced his origins while ensuring his mama didn't have to stay in those conditions a single day longer than necessary. He bought her a home, set her up, and made sure she was taken care of. But I keep it 100 on this channel, so I'm not going to gloss over the hard parts. Fetty Wap's career has faced serious turbulence, from legal issues to deep personal tragedy. In 2022, he suffered the unimaginable loss of his 4-year-old daughter, Zayla, and later that year, he was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison on drug trafficking charges. The public narrative surrounding Fetty in recent years has been heavy, real heavy. But here's what I need you all to understand about the home he gave his mother. That house doesn't go away. That sacrifice isn't undone by the struggles that followed. Thousana Maxwell has a home because her son made it happen. Even in the darkest chapters of Fetty's life, losing his daughter and heading to federal prison, the foundation he built for his family remains standing. There is something truly heartbreaking about a man who constructed a dream for everyone around him, only to watch his own life fracture. But the love was real, the effort was real, and his mother's home is real. Real, recognize real, always. Alright gang, let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just a video about property and price tags. Every single rapper on this list came from a place where a dream home wasn't even a thought. It wasn't a goal. It wasn't on the vision board. When you're 9 years old and the lights are about to be cut off, you aren't dreaming about a 6-bedroom house in the suburbs. You're just trying to survive the week. What these 6 men, Kendrick, Youngboy, Pooh Shiesty, Yachty, and Fetty achieved was converting their pain into purpose. They took the exact circumstances meant to hold them back and used them as fuel to permanently change their families' lives. Some of them are still out here doing it, some are behind bars, and some are gone forever. But the one thing that ties them all together is this: they showed up for the woman who showed up for them first. I think that really matters in a culture that often gets distracted by the beef, the drip, and the numbers. We sometimes forget that at its core, Hip-hop is about survival and love. It's about the love a kid from the projects has for the mother who refused to let the streets swallow him whole. It's the love that says, I made it. And the very first thing I'm doing is making sure you're taken care of. That's not soft, that's the toughest thing a man can do. Choosing love over everything else when the world trained you to be cold. Now, I want to hear from you. Real talk, which one of these stories hit you the hardest? Is it Pac, who built a foundation for his mom but didn't live to see how far she carried it? Is it Pooh Shiesty, who gave her the dream right before it all came crashing down legally? Or is it Fetty, who lost a child and his freedom but made sure his mother was set first? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to know what you think. This community keeps it real, and I respect every one of your opinions. And look, if you have someone in your life who sacrificed for you the way these mothers did, go tell them right now. Don't wait for the bag, Jazz. Tell them. That's all I've got for today, gang. If you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button and drop a like if this video meant something to you. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay real, stay loyal,